Speaking of comedies that you need to see, we are so pleased today and honored to have the director of Win a Trip to BROWNTOWN. I'm going to butcher his name. It's George A. Tramountanas. George, help me with the pronunciation of your name, George.
You were super close. Tramountanas.
Tramountanas. All right. So you are not just the writer-director of this film. You are also the lead actor in this movie. And I'm not sure if you were watching our live stream earlier, but Alan and I were talking about how similar this movie is. I don't know how you're going to take this. It's very similar to It's a Wonderful Life.
I will take that.
Because in a sense, your character, the lead guy, right, has a dream, has a big dream he wants to fulfill. He wants to become an established writer and be recognized for your creativity. And you have a family and you made a choice. And you made a choice about like, I'm choosing my family, but you have no time. I really relate to this. Like when my kids were younger, it's like, how do you find like 30 minutes of uninterrupted to just write something? And so I found that aspect of the movie very endearing. This sounds weird. It feels like a family film, but with a little dirty edge, because the concept is your wife will let you in her behind if you lose 50 pounds. So, and the movie opens, I should mention, I'm sorry, this long intro to get to asking you questions, and please post your questions in the chat, because as soon as your movie came up, people have been just talking about it the whole time. So, and we were, and part of a thread of our conversation this morning has been about how there aren't many great comedies these days, right? The comedies it's hard to find like a good comedy that just doesn't give a fuck, right? Like, and that's what I really loved about your film is there's this bizarre wholesomeness, and yet there's a scene where your wife in the film goes to a sex shop to pick up some sex toy
yes,
to help her along.
Some training tools.
Right. But the movie opens with this thing. Can you describe how the movie opens with the word? It needs to be said.
It's funny because the words that open the film, I actually put in literally in the script because I knew that was going to be the first thing my wife said when she read it. Was like, everybody's going to think this is about me. So I put it on right in the front, dedicated to my wife, who wants me to tell you this film is not based on her.
But tell me what led to this. And also, haven't we met before?
Yes, actually, that's when you were hosting the Ultimate Film Fanatics on IFC, I was one of the contestants back in 2006 for the Northwest region.
So. Wow. Okay. Yeah. My frustrating thing about doing that show was I couldn't talk to the contestants. And when you're around a bunch of movie nerds and you've got like movie knowledge you want to share, it's like I had to held back. But like I don't think you won, but congratulations for getting on the show. That's cool.
Oh yeah. I got to the second round. I was knocked out by Tatum O'Neal, who didn't agree that Robert Zemeckis was a great director. So
well, I'll share a piece of inside info working on IFC's Ultimate Film Fanatic. She was a pain in the ass to work with. You know, she's an Oscar winner, pain in the ass. And behind the scenes, we called her Irritatum. So you should just know that. Just sharing that little piece of it. But like, it's great. I can't tell you how many times I've met like someone who's a hardcore movie geek who becomes a filmmaker. So I really admire that, because I just know, having made films myself, it's not an easy pathway. But like, your wife was not the inspiration, but what was the inspiration?
Well, it was a combination of a few things. So I'm from Seattle originally, and after I graduated college, I went down to LA to become a filmmaker. As a matter of fact, one of my first jobs was an assistant to Oliver Stone, which is where I was introduced to Film Threat, because he loved the cover for Natural Born Killers, which is when I was working there.
Wow.
Juliette Lewis and Woody Harrelson had a gun to his head on the cover. So I still have that issue.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I went to USC's graduate film school. I was married the whole time. We got married out of college, and I tried, had a manager, tried things down there, but it's a rough life when you're trying to do that. And like the character in the film, eventually I had to come to a decision, like anybody who has a big goals in life. And I chose family, came back up to Seattle and raised family. Still writing, still doing things, but had a 9-to-5 job. And in 2016, unfortunately, my mom passed away from cancer, and I put on a lot of weight, and I'd also put on weight over the years raising kids. And I was tired of writing scripts that weren't getting made, and I needed to laugh. And I came up with this idea for what could motivate a guy to lose 50 pounds short of $1 million. And it's kind of funny because I wasn't sure, like, oh, are most people going to relate to this? So I asked what I considered normal husbands, took a little survey, and they were all like, oh, yeah, I'd watch that movie. So, yeah, with that, I wrote the script, and I somehow got my wife and kids to sign off on it. My 2 kids play the oldest 2 kids in the film. And it was kind of funny because every time I wrote a script, they would always ask, oh, when are you going to write something for us to star in? And you better be careful what you wish for. And then, yeah, we shot it over the summer of 2019. We shot it over a 3-month period. And I lost 50 pounds while shooting it. We shot it over weekends because everybody works. It's micro budgeted, but it was a crazy time, but it was good.
Well, that's very good advice. I've talked to countless filmmakers who went into credit card debt because they had to make their movie, and you did the smart thing, just shoot on weekends. That was Christopher Nolan, his very first feature, which is a 16mm black and white film called Following, which is also very difficult to find, but I like to throw out tips to see other films. But he did the same thing. He shot on weekends. He didn't go into debt. He could afford one reel of film to shoot, and would shoot. And when the film was done going through the camera, they were done shooting for the weekend. So very smart to do that. And then, yeah, your character loses weight, so you must have shot chronologically.
On my parts, yes, we're shot chronologically. It was, like I said, I'm not going to joke. I was the writer, director, producer, set designer, everything. I followed the old maxim, write what you have and write what you know. Although the sexual part, I learned a few things too. But
well, it's interesting because, I don't know if you set out to make like an anti-woke comedy, but it doesn't feel, the movie is definitely not woke. Especially, I mean, the couple things that like stand out to me, like that final scene, the pitch fest, all the different pitches. Please tell us where some of that stuff came from. I'm forgetting some of the specifics. The one was like S is for, the pop-up book. I don't know if we can say that word, unfortunately, on YouTube, but some of the other stuff, like, can you talk about, like, you have these people get up and they give these really pretentious, just like, very much trying to appeal to academia and literature. These pitches that are, I mean, I've rolled my eyes at when I've heard pitches like that, like, when they start to describe the lead character and they're basically just describing themselves, the character is a filmmaker, and it's like, oh my God, I can't, that's the worst. But like, can you tell me, like, was there a conscious effort? Like, I'm going to make a movie that just is funny, or did you think like, nobody's making good comedies now, I'm going to go for stuff that's raunchy, and I'm just going to go for it? And just a quick reminder to people in the chat to post your questions for George, and we'll get to those near the end. But George, how did you, in the development, was that consciously thought, or you just thought, I want to write something funny?
It was a conscious thought to write something funny. I mean, I've written all genres. I lean towards comedy. But I grew up during the age of Animal House, Revenge of the Nerds, Porky's. Those were my favorite comedies, and I wanted to make something like that. It was in my mind. Like I said, my mom had passed. 2016 was a rough year. There was a certain election that didn't quite go the way people thought, and I just wanted to laugh. And those are the kind of comedies I like. And I said, well, this may be the only chance I get to make a comedy. So I'm going to make it the way I want, about the subject I want. I'm not, like you mentioned, I didn't spend a lot. It's super micro budgeted. Um, I was making this movie for me and my friends. And if other people liked it, God bless them.
Well, I mean, it's certainly got to get people like, you will always be the guy that made the BROWNTOWN movie. That's just that, I love it. But those pitches you must have had, because it seemed like that was improv, some of it, right? Like it's like, here's your pitch, come up with a pitch for this. Can you tell us a little bit about the specifics of some of those? I just thought that was such a standout scene, and it's a great scene in the movie. So can you talk about some of the specific pitches and how you came up with those?
Sure. Well, some of them, like I said, there's a lot of me in that film. When I was in film school at USC, uh, I'm a child of the 80s. I came in, I was somebody who happily admits I enjoyed Rambo 2, Rocky 4, great movie, Um, but the other guys in film school did not quite appreciate my sensibility, and everything came off really serious every time they were starting to pitch. And I was always deemed as kind of the oddball. So part of it was from that. I did teach some film school, night school, film classes at night school here in Seattle. Seattle is a very, you were talking about already, kind of woke town. And so often the subjects that they would pitch me were all, were very similar to those topics. And so when it came time for Pitch Fest, I came up with some nuggets of ideas that that people could expand on. Some of them I fleshed out a little more than others. And it was really interesting because I had all these people lined up to do Pitch Fest, and then 2 weeks before we were set to film that scene, they all dropped out except for one. And so I just really quickly put out ads. We had a weekend session the week before we filmed. They went home, they worked on it. They sent me little clips and things of things they were doing, and we just put it together on the stage. And I was very pleased and surprised. Oh, well, one other thing to note, one of the contestants there was actually one of my co-contestants when I was on your show. So,
Oh, that's great.
yeah, he's the winner, actually. So,
oh, wow. Alan, when we were talking about the movie earlier, said that he really related to the film. He's married. He has a daughter. He totally relates to the movie. Alan, did you have a question?
Just to clarify, I related to the family conflict of the
sure, Alan.
Yeah, and I think that's as I'm watching your movie, I'm thinking, how did this get made? And you I mean, is there a point where you're questioning whether you can actually make a movie with this kind of content, with the bet in mind, and how are you going to sell that movie? What were kind of some of did you have some fears going into it by doing that?
I did. I was kind of curious how certain audiences were going to react, but at the same time, I found kind of people fell into, two groups: people who really loved and were excited by the idea, and people who were turned off and nervous about it. To be honest, I didn't. While it is kind of a strange subject, I don't find it that bad. I mean, this is a guy in the film who's been married over 20 years. I feel, whatever a couple wants to do in their bedroom, up to them, as long, as it doesn't involve animals, another person, or citrus fruit. I think it's good.
Yeah. And when it's guys in their 40s, it's very sexy.
Exactly.
And then I guess you're being distributed by Gravitas Ventures. What do you have an idea of what they saw in it to say, okay, weird plot, but let's go for it?
They saw exactly what I was hoping they would see in it. They said, this is awesome. This is like, an American Pie for adults. Nobody makes raunchy comedies for parents. Like you said, all the raunchy comedies are these college age kids. And you were also asking a little bit, about why this film, how I chose it. And, part of my thing in my mind was, if I'm going to make a film, I wanted to make something that, a studio wouldn't make. What's the point of going to all the trouble making a film if it's something you can just, click on streaming and see easily? So And I was really lucky. Gravitas got what we were trying to do, and they loved it, and they've been a great partner.
Yeah, I mean, I think bold storytelling. That's the key here. That's what we're missing in mainstream movies. It feels bold, but it never really is. And I do like a story that is willing to take a risk. And we've seen plenty of comedies recently who have done that, and we're willing to take that risk at all financial costs.
Well, I mean, that's what I love about it. It's just like, this is why independent film exists, to take these kinds of risks, the kind of risk that, like, I mean, although I would love to see this on Netflix, I wonder if Netflix would even pick it up. But let's hope that they do. I mean, it's still a possibility. It's out today, right, on video on demand.
It's out actually on the 22nd.
22nd. Okay.
Yes, pretty much all video on demand streaming places: Amazon, Apple, Google, YouTube. So yeah, I mean, it's really exciting for me. I made this film, like I said, not sure who was going to see it, and now it looks like everybody who wants to see it can.
Well, we've got a lot of questions and comments here in the chat, so let's get to them. Fletcher Williams says he took the Community Greendale logo. I'm sure that was on purpose. Pretty sure that was on purpose. BROWNTOWN, everyone goes to BROWNTOWN. They're saying that should be that should be a song that you use. Oteo says, I'm excited for BROWNTOWN. Seems hilarious. So even the Infinite Main says, even the opening scroll sounds hilarious. BROWNTOWN has an 8.6 out of 10 on IMDb right now. So that's great. People are loving you in the chat. This is great.
Sorry, real quick, just because you're mentioning people wanted to see it, I should mention, for those who use Apple TV or iTunes, there is a flash sale right now, just this weekend before we're getting launched. It's $6.99. So if you want to buy it,
$6.99 on iTunes right now, and you can see the film. It's cheaper than going to the normal movie theater. Bill 4393 says, did you make this last year with the whole pandemic going on? How difficult was it to make during that period? Did you or no?
We shot the summer before the pandemic, and then we started post. And actually, the pandemic worked a little bit in my favor because I was working at home. So I would do my job, and then I'd hop on the other computer and do some editing and work. So that worked out good. It was interesting. We picked up some of the panoramic shots of Seattle that we shot. We did that during the pandemic, which made it easier, although we had to frame out everybody wearing masks. So, and then it was, we finished. It was a year of film festivals, and now we're out being released.
Nice. Infinite Main says, how old are your kids and what do they think about the movie?
Good question. It's kind of funny. So my kids and my wife, actually, everybody knows of me as kind of the inappropriate guy. I don't swear a lot, but jokes tend to go that way around me. My kids know that. One of their first words when they were like just little was, "That's inappropriate, Dad." And so, yeah, when I gave them the script, I had to explain, this isn't about Mom and me. And they were okay. They kind of rolled their eyes, but they still laughed, and they were game for it. And yeah, I like to say they're equally proud of and embarrassed by me. So,
well, there's you don't directly say actually what's happening. It's win a trip to BROWNTOWN, right? Like you kind of talk around it. I feel like a lot of the movie, which is what I loved about it, is a lot of dad jokes are kind of like sprinkled in. And I personally love dad jokes. But someone says, oh, and this is for the record, Fletcher, Alan related to BROWNTOWN, but not Turning Red from Pixar.
Yeah, because it was made for me. It was made for me.
Yeah, win a trip to BROWNTOWN. And then Bill 4393 says, how long did it take to come up with that euphemism movie title? Because there are so many different ways of talking around it. And it's never, I will say this, this is why movie feels almost like a family film. Like it's not gross. It's not overt. It's beneath the surface. But what do you think about Bill's question?
Sure. Just for the record, one of the ways I like to describe it is like the Ron Howard Parenthood movie written by Kevin Smith, kind of.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. The title actually was one of the things I came up with early on. Um, I wanted a title that sounded fun, but at the same time uh, wasn't overt. And it's really interesting because half the people who hear the title have no clue what it's about. A lot of the cast, until they saw the script, didn't know what they were auditioning for exactly, except for it was supposedly raunchy.
And then Akanika. Oh God, I'm so sorry if I butchered your name. The film seems like it's torn from the pages of a Dan Savage's column, which Dan Savage does a sex column in Seattle. Is that right? Like, I forget the name of his column, but yeah, it's like torn from the pages of that. I could see
Uh,
him reviewing it.
I It's funny because I know Dan Savage's name. It's been a long time. I, I'm sure I must have read him at some point if he's a Seattle writer.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, no, this was purely my mind, which is doesn't say much about me. It doesn't speak well, but
Gabriel says, "Man, if Netflix refuses to pick this up, considering all the other strange stuff they have there, yeah,
yeah,
it's perfect for Netflix." Fletcher Williams says, how did you deal with the production cost on what budget? Like you said, you shot on weekends, so I assume you have like a day job, right? Like,
yeah, I was still working a day job.
mhm.
I lost my job halfway through the shoot, but that's another story. But we just shot on weekends, so everybody except for the crew, the main crew was working for free. The main crew, I'm embarrassed to say that they weren't making much more than a per diem. But um, like I said, I was making it for me. I wasn't making it to make a jillion dollars. I had some friends and family who were willing to kick in a little bit, and it was me. I like to say we shot the film for about the budget of a Kia car. um, I told my kids they didn't get a car because we made the movie. And then by the time we finished everything, we're probably closer to the cost of a Mercedes. But um, the nice thing about that, though, is, you only need that chunk to shoot. And then the rest of it you can spread out over 2 years. So,
I mean, I will say it is a good looking film. I mean, it feels very, I wouldn't, it's not Francis Ford Coppola by any means, but, it's, lighting, camera angles, composition, everything, sound. I mean, it's a very, very well put together film.
thank you. Yeah, I was very fortunate in that. I should say. So, I was just looking at film schools even to grab a cinematographer, but I put out ads everywhere. And this professional cinematographer named Guy Staley saw it, and he had never shot a feature on his own. And he said, "Send me the script." He loved the script, and he wanted to do it for the budget I was offering. Same with the professional sound guy. And one other thing where the pandemic worked for us. This is going to sound strange. So we had done a rough sound mix that we initially started going out to festivals with. One of my friends from film school, he was friends with one of the sound mixers on Shape of Water, which is an Oscar-winning sound mix. And he was like, "He's not doing anything. Nobody's using the studio. Do you want another mix?" And he gave me a price I could afford. And so we have an Oscar-winning sound mix.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Some more questions from our chat or comments. Ryan Landis says, "Is the backdoor item to making BROWNTOWN number 2?" Sorry, I'll see myself out. So there you go. That's fine. And then Bill 4393 says, "Surely there's already a sequel in the works. What would the sequel be?"
I don't know.
How do you elevate that bet? That's
we always joke about that. Is it a threesome? Do I follow one of the kids' adventures? I don't know.
Oh my God.
I'm thinking it's a one-off, but
And Infinite Main says, "Hope this movie makes you at least a Tesla."
well, thank you, Infinite Main. I appreciate that.
Oh, that's great. That's great. George, it's been a pleasure having you on our live cast this morning here. This is awesome. The movie is Win a Trip to BROWNTOWN. You need to get it's available now for pre-order, $6.99 on iTunes. You can pick it up. It's also on all video on demand platforms on March 22nd. So check out the film. If you are looking for a raunchy comedy for the whole family, it depends on your family. I'm gonna your mileage may vary, but we strongly recommend it. And it's our goal, and it's always been Film Threat's mission to support independent film. I think in particular now, as studio filmmaking becomes more corporatized, more, as Francis Ford Coppola put it, he calls it factory filmmaking. He says that's what modern Hollywood is. We need innovative films like Win a Trip to BROWNTOWN.
Thank you so much.
We need movies like that, George. So we thank you. The chat thanks you. Everybody's saying thanks, George. That's awesome. Piers Bronson. Our chat's very active.
That's great. I just want to let anybody know too, if they want to find out more too, we do have a website, triptobrowntown.com. Stop on by. You want to get yourself a t-shirt for somebody you love? Go ahead. We have t-shirts.
Is there a sweepstakes at the website?
Oh, no.
Well, as a matter of fact, we are running a pre-order contest. If you pre-order, and then the details are in there. If you send me the receipt afterwards and I see you pre-ordered, you're entered in a contest. 1 out of 10 will win some BROWNTOWN merchandise.
You could win a trip to BROWNTOWN. Right.
You can win a trip to BROWNTOWn.
Kangarooster says, inspired me to lose some weight. So there you go. Yeah, George, it's been real. All the best with future projects you have. Thanks, George. Best of luck.
You could start a nationwide trend with this movie.
Yeah, if you're looking for a movie to help with weight loss and or anal sex, this is the convergence of those two things. Congratulations, George, says Ryan Landis. George, thank you. And it's great to connect with you again. The Ultimate Film Fanatic was a blast. We did 2 seasons of it. And I'm happy to see you're not the only one who was a contestant on that show who went on to make a feature film. The winner, what was his name? Chad. God, I'm spacing out his name. And I interviewed him. Oh my God, I can't believe. I don't know, but he had a movie at Sundance, and it's great. When you get with like real super uber movie nerds, like they're that desire, that burning desire, passion to make a movie is just right in there. So congratulations, and I really want people to discover this film because it's unforgettable. It's unforgettable. It's in that WTF category. Alan and I always talk about it. I'm like, how did this movie get what? What is this movie? So there you go. People loving you in the chat. So that's awesome. George, thanks again for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was great talking to you, and so glad you guys enjoyed it.